Hey everyone, how are you? Welcome back to art class. I hope everyone is doing well. Today we're going to talk about a type of art. There's many different types of art. This one is kind of one of two big categories of artwork. Now, when I say two big categories, two main categories, there's of course a whole lot of different ways you can make art. There's photography, there's painting, there's drawing. I'm not really talking about those kind of categories. I'm talking about two big main categories that, like, any kind of artwork you make or you see, it's going to be one of these two things. The first one is called objective art. Objective art is called objective because it's art that's of an object, of a thing. If I draw a picture of a dog, I want you to be able to tell that it's a dog. If my goal is to draw that picture of the dog and have you know what it is, then that's objective art. The other big kind of main category, which is the one that we're going to talk a lot about today, is called abstract art. With abstract art, the goal is not necessarily me making a dog and then you, the viewer, being able to tell it's a dog. Sometimes abstract art is the kind of art that when we look at, we can't tell what's going on at all. It might just be a huge canvas painted with just one color. Some of it, we need some more information from the artist. Things like the title might help us figure out what's going on. Some of it, the artist wants us to figure out what we think is going on completely on our own. I could look at a piece of abstract artwork and you could look at the same exact piece of abstract artwork and we might both see two completely different things. And that's fine sometimes. That sometimes is completely the goal of what the artist was trying to do. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make some of our own abstract art. So the artwork we make today is going to be based specifically on the artwork from the artist named Wasilly Kandinsky. Now hopefully you watched the video up above first to learn a little bit about him, a little bit about some of the artwork that he made, and kind of why he made the art that he did, kind of how he did it, what he was thinking about, what he was imagining while he created those artworks. So Mr. Kandinsky is a very important person in the world of art. He's from Russia. He was born in 1866, and he's one of like the first people to really kind of make abstract art. A lot of people had kind of started messing around with abstract art, but he was kind of one of the first ones to take it as far as he did. Up until that point, every artist's goal, or at least the artists that we know about because they became famous, was to make objective art. They wanted it to look like whatever it was supposed to look like. When Da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa, he wanted it to end up looking like the Mona Lisa. So over the course of Mr. Kandinsky's career as an artist, we can kind of see his artwork change and become more abstract. So this one here is titled Munich, which is named after a city. He did this kind of at the beginning of his career. He had started taking like formal art classes in Munich, which is the city that this is supposed to look like. And his goal at this point still was to make it look something like what he was seeing. We're supposed to be able to tell that this is a city. If you've been to Munich, which I haven't, maybe you have, then maybe you could also tell what city it is by seeing some of the landmarks that you might recognize. So if we move a little bit further into his career, we can look at a painting like this one. This one is called Landscape with Rolling Hills. And he made this one in 1910. Now we can still tell what's going on, right? We can still kind of tell that it's based on a landscape. Some of the shapes might look a little more simple. Some of the colors might look a little more simple, not blended together like we would see them in the real world. But we can still kind of tell what it's based on. So the first one was 1901, this one's 1910. So over 9 years, his work had become more abstract. So we fast forward one more time to 1923, and we start getting stuff like this. This is titled In the Black Square, and this, believe it or not, is also a landscape. Now, we don't see a landscape when we look at this, right? But he was thinking about a landscape when he made it. So you might see some objects, some shapes that you could kind of recognize. He was thinking about mountains. I think we see some shapes that we could kind of see as mountains. He was thinking about clouds. He was thinking about rainbows. He was thinking about a lot of things that we would see in a landscape of like a nice sunny day. Now there's some other stuff going on there, right, that wouldn't have really anything to do with the landscape. That's something else that he was trying to do, where he was trying to kind of get away from even basing his paintings on anything real and just start coming up with lines and shapes. But still, a lot of his artwork, there's always some shapes, especially once you see the titles, or you learn anything about kind of what he was thinking about. Usually there's some lines, some shapes, maybe even just some colors that you can kind of piece together and say, all right, yeah, I see that I could kind of tell what he was thinking about. But you don't really have to, right? I can look at this thing and like it without knowing anything about it at all. And this is one of the ones that I could say I could look at, you could look at, and we might both see something completely different in there. So, a little more about abstract art. If the goal with objective art is to make something look exactly like it looks, or as close to what it looks like in the real world as you can get, then abstract art, sometimes we want people to recognize what it is, but more often than not, the goal of abstract art, the artists were trying to get ideas across about what they were feeling, how they felt about a thing, what sort of emotions that they had, what sort of environment it was in. We see some abstract art that's painted outside, and just by looking at it we can tell that maybe it was a windy day. Things like that. So here's what we're gonna do, and turn on your listener, turn on your smart kid big brain, because this one's kind of different from anything we've done today, or not today, ever. So you're going to make your own piece of abstract art. Now, when we're done with this, we won't necessarily be able to tell exactly what's going on. This is going to be kind of like Mr. Kandinsky's that we looked at. We might see some shapes that we would recognize, but we don't really have to. So you're going to think of 3 main things, and it might help to think about these things first and even write them down on a separate piece of paper, just so you can kind of keep that in your mind as you're going. I want you to think about a place. I want you to think about a thing. This could be like an activity that you could do. This could be something we would see at this place. For example, if your place was a swimming pool, then that thing could either be a diving board, or it could be the act of swimming. So again, I know this might be kind of strange, but so we need a place, we need a thing, and we want a season of the year. What are we going to do with those, right? So we're going to take those thoughts, and we're going to use things like lines and shapes and colors, real simple things combined in different ways to make a piece of artwork. And like we said, when we're done, this is going to be abstract. You might be the only person on the planet that could tell what this was supposed to be about. But that's not necessarily the goal with abstract artwork. You're just trying to get your emotions, how you feel about the thing, about the place. You're trying to get that idea across. All right, now if you're confused, that's fine, because sometimes this stuff can be confusing. But I'm going to draw an example for you guys and kind of talk through it with you. Hopefully, if you are confused at all, by the time you're done seeing what mine's going to end up being, it'll help you come up with some ideas for yours. All right, that's it. Let's get started drawing. All right, so for this kind of strange, different artwork that we're doing, you're going to need some of our normal stuff. You'll need a paper, you'll need a pencil, something to draw with, and you will want something to color with. All right, so we said that we needed to come up with a place, a thing, and a season of the year. Now, I actually came up with the middle one first, the thing, when I was thinking of something that I could come up with some recognizable shapes. I thought about baseball. So that's my thing is going to be baseball. My place, I love the Chicago Cubs, so my place is going to be Chicago. My thing is going to be baseball. And my season is going to be summer, because that is when I think of baseball being played. All right, so now I'm going to start coming up with shapes. I'm going to start with shapes and lines first, and then I'm going to worry about colors. I'm going to do a Sharpie just so you guys can see better, but as always, use your pencil first. That way you can erase any mistakes that you make. Now, the shapes and lines that I make, I'm going to kind of think about Mr. Kandinsky's artwork towards the end of his career, where there might be things overlap, things might be upside down, things might not be the right direction, things might not look at all like you would expect them to look. And then again, it doesn't really have to. It's completely up to you what this ends up looking like, because it's about what you're trying to represent. All right, so since my place is Chicago, Chicago's a real big city, right? With a lot of like skyscrapers. So I'm gonna start with some rectangles that make me think of big, tall buildings. Now I'm just kind of putting them in a couple of different locations, maybe a couple different directions. But those are going to kind of give me the idea of big, tall buildings. Let's see, what's some other stuff I can think of? So, in order to get to Chicago, since it's a couple hours away from us, right, we have to drive. So I'm going to add some lines that look like the big, long, winding road that I would have to take if I was going to drive to Chicago. The baseball field where the Cubs play is called Wrigley Field, and it has a really famous sign out front. So I'm going to draw a shape that kind of looks like their sign. So we've got some place. We've started to get some thing in here where I've started talking about the baseball. I'm going to add some circles. Well, I'm sure you can figure out why. Baseballs are a circle, right? So again, I'm not just going to sit here and draw a baseball. I'm just drawing me things. Sorry, not drawing me. I'm drawing things that I can think of as ways to represent that. Another thing I think of when I think about baseball is the grass. So maybe I'm going to start drawing some lines to kind of represent the grass. Now, again, you can have things overlap. You can have things look exactly like they would in real life. You can have things look completely different. It is entirely up to you. All right, so I've got a place. I've started working on my thing. I'm going to start, let's see, maybe a big one going through the whole thing here. I'm going to draw the shape, sort of, kind of, almost, of a baseball bat. And let's do one more. Let's do home plate, home base. All right, so I've got my place, which is Chicago. I've got my thing, which is baseball. And for the time of the year, we said we were gonna do summer. So I'm gonna do down here, this will kind of represent the sun. And then I'll do my kind of wavy sun ray lines coming out of it. And maybe a few more kind of wavy lines in there just to tie it all together. All right, so right now, I don't know that I could tell what this was supposed to be about if I looked at it. Again, that's fine. I think I could maybe see this baseball bat shape, although with some of the other things I might not see it as a baseball. Maybe I'll see it as an airplane or like a whale or something. Maybe these are bubbles. Maybe these are waves under the water. I don't know. That's one of the neat things about abstract art. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and color mine. I will speed that up so you don't have to sit here and watch me do the whole thing. Then we'll talk about maybe some of the choices I made when I was coloring, and then you can get started on yours. All right, so there is my abstract painting based on Mr. Wasilly Kandinsky. You know, I was thinking while I was making this that I might actually even like it more in a different direction, which is another good thing about abstract art, is you can make a choice like that after you're all the way finished. So again, we thought of a place, we thought of a thing, and we thought of a season of the year. My place was Chicago, my thing was baseball, and my season was summer. Then I took lines and shapes and symbols, and I kind of piled those on top of each other to create this piece of artwork. Then when you color it, your colors don't necessarily have to do with the things you wanted them to be about, but I chose to make them. Used black for my skyscrapers because from far off they usually look black or gray. Of course, my sun, my summer heat is red and orange. Now the yellow, obviously a road is not yellow, but the lines in the middle of it are. And then I also kind of thought of the whole yellow brick road thing from Wizard of Oz. On home plate, I've got the Cubs colors, so green for the grass. Now the blue baseballs, I wanted them to be a color instead of just white like a baseball. And when I think of a baseball, I think of it like up in the sky. So that's why I chose blue. So your colors don't have to go with your overall theme, but they can, and they can be an important part of your theme if you want them to. All right, my friends, so this is it. I know this is kind of an out there, kind of different piece of artwork, but I think it'll give you a good idea to think about how some of these people that make abstract art, kind of the things that they're thinking about. So instead of maybe just seeing a piece of abstract art and saying, it's just a bunch of lines, maybe after we take some time and do one of our own, you might be able to look at someone else's abstract art and appreciate it maybe a little bit more or a little differently than you would have before. All right, my friends, that is all. Can't wait to see yours. Hope you're doing great. See you guys later. Bye.